Good morning for AM 1340, 99.5 FM, WGRV. I'm Reid Seals, and I'm here with Greene County Mayor Kevin Morrison for our monthly interview. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Reid.
So first off, explain the process for replacing Clark Justis on the school board.
Well, due to the tragic, sort of untimely passing of Clark Justis, once again a line for education, we declared a vacancy at the county commission meeting in the 6th school board district on Monday evening. That was necessary to alert the public and any interested party that might be interested in serving in a vacancy in that district. But where we go from here, Reid, is that after declaring a vacancy and notifying the public, it will be run, an ad will be run in the paper, as well as announcements made here on the radio that we will be taking applications for qualified candidates through October 29th. They would submit those resumes or applications, if you will, to my office up until that point. We would then take those applications or resumes over to the election commission, where they would be determined by the election commission to qualify for that school board seat, i.e. the resident making application would have to live in that district. That district includes Mossheim, McDonald area. And then after being reviewed and found suitable at the election commission, those resumes or applications would be brought back over. We would make copies of all of the qualified candidates and place those into the commission packets. And then at the next commission meeting, we would accept nominations from those applications. They would be voted on individually, and the individual application getting 11 votes then would be seated as the school board member from that district until the next county general election in 2 years.
So why was there so much controversy on Monday night over tearing down the garage building that houses salt?
Well, Monday's meeting was a marathon, Reid, and one of the controversial items on the agenda was the disposition of the building, the old Trantham's garage building there at the intersection of Amity Road and the Asheville Highway. That building was constructed in 1948, used as a garage. Of course, everyone that has been out in that area, there in the Debusk community, the South Greene community, knows that we have undertaken quite a large expansion of the convenience center there. And very soon, when we get the upgrades finished, we will open up that center to 5 or 6 days of garbage collection, and it will be a full-fledged convenience center, whereas in the past it's been just one compactor. They haven't been able to accept but limited items there, but it will be a full-fledged center just like any other. In fact, it will be one of the nicer, bigger centers for operations. That being said, the renovations that have taken place there have left the old Trantham's garage building sort of sticking out like a sore thumb. With our insurance carrier, there's certainly some considerations about increased liability of the traffic that will be greatly increased going around the building, in and around the grounds. Solid waste could most certainly use that space for its compactors, roll-offs, overflow cans, recyclable cans, and that fact, it's not been used in about 15 years. It's served, at least a portion of the building has served as a repository for road salt. We've got 2 locations, one at the highway department, and that one, obviously it wasn't built for that specific purpose, but it does house that. Anybody can go by and look at the condition of the building. There's not been any maintenance done to the building in a long time. The roof, at least in one critical area, is leaking into the electrical switch box. That would need to be fixed. There's several solutions. We could demolish a portion of the building and leave the salt shack side of the building intact, as it appears to be structurally sound, and repair the eaves, the gutter, that sort of thing, and then be okay. It would have a much smaller footprint there. But the controversy was over, sort of what to do, what path to chart forward, whether to demolish the building, demolish part of the building, repair the building, that sort of thing. And the ultimate solution that was worked out on Monday was to refer it back to the highway department. I think some considerations that may come out there would be if the highway department wants to retain the building, then they might be charged with maintaining it or putting it back into some type of acceptable condition. But we'll see as we go forward as to what their recommendation is.
Explain why small slaughterhouses need to be moved to A1 zoning.
Well, for a great period of time, Reid, Greene County has had slaughterhouse operations in the M2 zoning. Now, M2 is heavy industrial zoning. It's pretty much a catch-all for undesirable type things, and I say undesirable, pretty much the not in my backyard type things, like landfills, that sort of thing. So in order to have some type of slaughterhouse, you had to have at least 10 contiguous acres, and it had to be zoned M2. Most M2 zoning is going to take place along a 4-lane, very near to town. We have 2 of those locations already. They were both zoned and currently hold M2 zoning. For smaller operations like that was presented on Monday, this would be limited yield, basically custom slaughter of animals. So you're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 or less head of stock being slaughtered in this facility. It would be custom packed for the individual, would not be offered for resale type thing. But the same, I guess, requirements apply to the A1 zoning. Most of Greene County, according to what our zoning official said, Tim Tweed, somewhere in the neighborhood of 85 to 95% of Greene County remains as an agricultural zoning, and moving the small yield slaughterhouses to that designation seemed to make sense to a lot of the commissioners. I don't think the complete jury verdict is in on this, simply because moving the slaughterhouse operations to A1 could in and of itself create another problem, which would be having some business like that next to someone. And you could have that as long as you had A1 zoning and 10 contiguous acres and met the other criteria requirements for a small yield slaughterhouse. So there's going to be, and there was considerable debate that revolved around comparing, for instance, the small yield slaughterhouses to the chicken house operations, which is also in an agricultural zoning. A lot of people find that very undesirable, odors and whatnot, and wouldn't want that near their home or near their residence. And so we may find out going forward in the future that, again, the verdict is not in entirely on the ramifications of moving it from an M2 zoning to an A1 zoning. And then there was also the consideration of having the other 2 slaughterhouse operations in M2, then we're allowing someone else to have a different criteria, for instance, or come in under different rules, so to speak, than the 2 businesses that we currently have. The difference being that under M2, the number of animals that can be slaughtered is unlimited, and under this zoning, it's limited to 400 head.
So can you update us on the new EMS substation progress?
Reid, that's a very exciting project that we've got going on out there, entirely paid for by grant funding that we've secured from the federal government. The only stipulation that we have is we're under a tight time frame guideline to get it completed, but that will be the first entirely originally freestanding structure built for EMS It's going to serve the center of the bypass and a considerable portion of the citizens of Greenville. Um, and it's again paid for with grant money. So we're excited about that. CNC Millwright was the bid winner for that, to have it constructed in 86 days from the time that they were awarded the bid until December 30th. What they've got accomplished so far is they've got the footers poured for the building. The building's approximately 140 feet long, 35 feet wide. It will house multiple crews, sleeping quarters, as well as multiple ambulances that would serve right there very near the hospital in the center of town. Having gone up there at least twice a day, in the morning and the evening. Of course, we've got early voting going on. That's another exciting thing. We voted 1,100 people yesterday. So in and amongst all this construction, we've got people coming to vote. We're very happy that we've got that facility, for instance, that we can't imagine. And I've had many, many people approach me and tell me how happy they are that they can come up here and vote in person, and do it safely and be socially distanced, and not wait very long. The maximum wait is 20 to 30 minutes, but that is in amongst all of this construction, and it's much like a chaotic ballet, but it's gone off very well. So we hope to see the block work completed on the EMS substation, for instance, later this week, the beginning of next week, and then the roof to start to take shape sometime around Election Day. We've got a 6-inch fire line that has to go in up there with a fire hydrant. Preliminary work has started on that, but it's mainly block and concrete work right now, and we look forward to, if the weather will cooperate with us, completing this monumental sort of project on time, and that it will be a great addition to Greenville and Greene County, and it will be for a long time.
And finally, do you plan to extend the mask mandate at the end of the month?
Well, as you know, the governor extended his authority to the local county mayors to extend the mask mandate through the end of 2020. In talking to fellow colleague mayors here in Northeast Tennessee, at the end of September, Hawkins County let their mask mandate expire, as did Johnson County, which left Unicoi, Carter, Greene, Washington, and Sullivan all with mask mandates until the end of October. And as the executive, I don't necessarily have a problem operating under the emergency guidelines afforded to me by the governor that have been given to him by the state legislature. In times of emergency, and that's the reason these authorities are granted to the executive branch, in that during times of emergency, and one can certainly see the need for that there's an emergency right now, that there needs to be a sense of urgency in making decisions, that we don't have time to debate in terms of a legislature or lawmaking body. Greene County has been under a mask mandate, an unenforceable mask mandate, since July the 15th. And we use words like mandate essentially to impress upon people the sense of urgency that they need to act with to protect themselves in terms of safety. And it's not done for any other reason. I do believe at this time that the people that are going to wear a mask are wearing them, and the ones that aren't won't. And that's perfectly fine. In the fact that we have emergency powers in effect, then they're in effect for a period of time until the state legislature, the body that can answer for the people and speak for the people, needs to weigh in. So there will be a great deal of thought go into whether or not I will extend I'm not saying that it's not needed. I certainly believe in masks. I have had many conversations with infectious disease experts, with virologists, and our medical community, and I certainly do believe they help um, and assist in controlling droplet transmission of COVID. Do I always wear my mask when I should? No. That's an original thing for Americans. Having been in the service and been overseas, particularly to Asian countries, they're more in tune with doing that and have done that for years. But here in America, we haven't done that. We haven't been required to do it. Our environment is such that we really haven't had to until this very sort of infectious disease come along. And it's a new thing to people. Some people see it as an infringement on their personal rights. Some see it as somewhat of a no-brainer to protect yourselves and others. But I do believe that they help somewhat. We basically have three things that we can do through this pandemic, and that is we can wash our hands and exercise good hand hygiene. We can stay apart and social distance, and when we can't social distance and stay apart, we can wear a mask temporarily. I try to do those things as much as I can. Again, I don't always do that. I forget. I completely agree with a lot of people. It's a pain in the tail. So I get it. But I would, as the sort of the chief executive for the county, very much appreciate and think that ample time has been given to the people's branch, which is the legislative branch, to weigh in on a path forward and whether or not there needs to be a mandated process to wear masks. Again, I think people have been educated to the point that the folks that are going to wear them are wearing them, and the folks that aren't are not going to. So the county mayors, and myself included, have been in a very difficult position about how much executive authority and for how long that should go on. So those things will certainly be on the table and under consideration, and we'll sort of see. So what we've tried to do, the mayors at least of the Northeast Tennessee area, have tried to sort of move in concert, if you will, so that people traveling, for instance, to the medical center or to the Tri-Cities or other different places are sort of under the same sort of rules, so that you're not having to remember 14 different things in 14 different places. But we'll just have to see, Reid. It's certainly this entire process has taken a great toll mentally. I try to keep myself sort of physically sharp and mentally sharp as well. I've had a lot of people very complimentary, some critical, and that's fine. That goes along with the job. Don't mind that. But this has been hard on everybody, and we're reaching a point, all of us, including myself and all of our employees, all of our citizens, are reaching a point where we're just sort of over all of this. We want it to be over, and it appears that as we move inside and we become sort of more active, that our numbers and our cases start up. Unfortunately, we have seen and continue to lead the area in deaths. That's very sort of concerning to me. And but there's a lot of things that go into, whether or not we're going to extend the mask mandate, have the mask mandate, maintain the mask mandate up until now. So we've got a few days to decide here. We will certainly be much in conference with our medical folks. I've always deferred to them. I'm not a medical expert. I don't pretend to be. But I try to listen to the people that should know and heed their advice from the health department, our local medical society, our hospital, our medical system across the region, and then the subject matter experts in infectious disease and virology to say this is where we are and where we're going, and this is how important this is. So all of those things will be carefully weighed, Reid.
Well, I want to thank Greene County Mayor Kevin Morrison for joining us today. This is Reid Seals for AM 1340 and 99.5 FM WGRV.